Broadcasting from the heart of the Santa Clarita Valley, this is Santa Clarita Weekly. You're listening to KQRU 107.9 FM, your source for local news, culture, and conversation. And now, here are your hosts, Sage Rafferty and Renee McKellar.
Welcome back to another edition of Santa Clarita Weekly. I'm Renee McKellar, and he is Sage Rafferty. And you can listen to the show on the radio at KQRU 107.9 FM on Thursday mornings at 6 a.m. and Thursday afternoons at 5:30, and on Saturday mornings at 9 o'clock. We are also on YouTube and Instagram, and you can find us online at santaclaritastar.com. Okay. This week on Santa Clarita Weekly, we'll be tackling some of the most pressing local and national topics. We start with a major issue in American politics: the Trump administration's ongoing efforts to consolidate power and limit free speech. It's an issue that's drawing across the political spectrum. This ties into a local story, as we'll discuss, the push by Moms for Liberty. They're a group with a presence right here in Santa Clarita. They are to restrict what teachers can say in the classroom. We're also going to examine how our school board member of Saugus, Anna Griese, a member of the group, recently commented on the tragic unaliving of Charlie Kirk during one of these school board meetings. We will be talking about the Chazz Jackson case out of Orange County. And of course, we'll round out the show with sports, covering the latest news and developments right out of the Los Angeles Dodgers and the Los Angeles Rams.
Thank you. Since the tragic assassination of Charlie Kirk, we have witnessed a systematic and chilling campaign against free speech in this country. What is presented as a necessary response to a national tragedy is now clearly being weaponized. This is not a what-if scenario. It is a report on what is happening right now, and we are connecting the dots on the Trump administration's escalating crackdown on dissent. We'll break down the events you're seeing in the headlines: Jimmy Kimmel being forced off the air by the SEC for a joke, and the actions of groups like Moms for Liberty, who champion the Constitution on one hand while demanding teachers be punished for their speech on the other. The historical parallels of the 1930s Reichstag fire are no longer theoretical. They are a direct and vital warning about our present course. This is a look at the state of American liberty today.
The tragic assassination of right-wing podcaster and activist Charlie Kirk was an event that sent shockwaves across the political spectrum, especially the MAGA movement. In the aftermath, a newly emboldened administration under President Donald Trump is using the tragedy to consolidate power and curb free speech, citing national security and the need to restore order. In Los Angeles County, a local chapter of Moms for Liberty in Santa Clarita organized to distribute copies of the U.S. Constitution to school children, framing it as an educational initiative. Yet, in the same breath, the organization advocated for stringent measures against teachers in classrooms, accusing them of speech violations for content deemed inappropriate or divisive. This dual approach, championing one form of speech while seeking to suppress another, underscored a growing tension in the country. Listen to Moms for Liberty leader Tina Desowich talk about how she believes that teachers are celebrating the death of Charlie Kirk in the classroom.
So the assassination of Charlie Kirk has been awful, but it has brought to light the things we've been talking about. And it's been very hard to watch people that we should respect, classroom teachers, for example, celebrating an assassination in the United States of America in the year 2025. People have been shocked. They can't believe that some of these people are teaching in their schools and in their classrooms. But in one sense, I'm glad it's finally coming to light. But these teachers need to be exposed. because you have an absolute right in America to be a horrible person. You have an absolute right to speak horrible things. You have an absolute right to say that you are celebrating the death of our friend, but that does not give you the right to access our children in a classroom for 8 hours a day. That does not mean that we have to use our tax dollars to pay your salary for you to be a horrible person in front of our children and try to teach them your horrible, hateful ways. And so at Moms for Liberty, we are continuing the fight.
Because while championing the First Amendment for themselves, the organization Moms for Liberty and its allies have been waging an aggressive campaign against the freedom of speech for others, specifically for the teachers inside these classrooms. This campaign was laid bare in a recent, hours-long live stream broadcast to a national audience. It was called Failure Factories, Breaking Free from the Tyranny of Public Education. Hosted by Moms for Liberty member Scarlett Johnson, the event was a blistering assault on teachers' unions, a primary target for the GOP, and on the entire institution of public education. Throughout the broadcast, the rhetoric moved beyond policy disagreements into outright political warfare, framing educators and their unions as direct political enemies of the Trump administration.
To work, they're not prepared for college, they're not prepared for life. This is the bitter fruit of a system run by Randi Weingarten. I'm going to say that again. This is the bitter fruit of a system run by union bosses like Randi Weingarten. This is the bitter fruit of systems run by organizations like the NEA, which have a federal charter, and they should not have enough homework. Oh, we don't want to do homework. It's like, I think that they don't want us to see what our kids don't know. They don't want us to watch our kids write the worst paragraph. Like, see Dick run. Like, what the heck? That's not a paragraph. That's like a few 4-word sentences. Where's your thesis? Where's the paper? Why can't you write cursive? Why can't you spell? They are overrepresented in education. So even though 80% plus of normal people that are going about their life don't want to have a boy in a girl's locker room, when you're talking about a school district like in California, unfortunately, 80% do. The woke craziness is overrepresented in education. This is the space in which we live. And that's why if you think it's not happening to my kid, you are wrong. They're just not telling you, or you're not asking the right questions. It is happening to your kid at some level, maybe not some insane level where they're putting a boy in a bathroom, but they're talking about it. They're talking about gender identity. They're slipping this in. It's in, the calls coming from inside the house. It's just in the well of this system. And so we have just begun to fight back, and there's a lot of wins, a lot to be excited about, but there's a lot more battles ahead.
The message was unmistakable. Teachers are not just educators, they are adversaries. Public schools are not institutions of learning, but battlegrounds. This grassroots pressure, amplified by a national platform, creates the justification for the administration's broader crackdown. It softens the ground, portraying public servants as a threat that must be controlled. President Trump, leveraging the grief and fear following Kirk's death, initiated a crackdown on what they believe to be enemies of the state and anyone saying anything contrary to the Trump administration's narrative. The Justice Department, under his watchful eye, began to target political opponents and critical media voices. In the last week alone, the offensive against dissent has accelerated on 3 fronts. First, the public front. Administration officials, including Vice President J.D. Vance and White House Deputy Chief of Staff Stephen Miller, have encouraged the public to call the employers of anyone expressing views disfavored by the government. Second, the institutional front. Attorney General Pam Bondi has vowed to use every resource the Department of Justice and Homeland Security have to, in her own words, identify, disrupt, and destroy groups the administration perceives to be an enemy. Finally, the ideological front. The Attorney General provided the justification for these actions, claiming there's free speech and then there's hate speech, while issuing a direct threat, saying, quote, "We will absolutely target you, go after you."
There's free speech and then there's hate speech. And there is no place, especially now, especially after what happened to Charlie, in our society.
See more law enforcement going after these groups who are using hate speech and putting cuffs on people, so we show them that some action is better than no action.
We will absolutely target you, go after you, if you are targeting anyone with hate speech, anything, and that's across the aisle.
The ACLU issued the following statement, quote, "The government is villainizing and threatening to punish anyone who dares to express anything but unequivocal support for its political views. In the last week, lawmakers have bullied schools into taking disciplinary action against teachers who have criticized Charlie Kirk's political views. Police officers are being put on leave for similar reasons. Federal agencies are disciplining public servants for expressing views contrary to those supported by the administration. Journalists and the media companies they work for have also felt a McCarthy-like pressure from the government, with popular late-night hosts losing their jobs." End quote. The pressure campaign on the Department of Justice is no longer happening behind closed doors. On Saturday, President Trump took his demands public, venting directly at Attorney General Pam Bondi. On Truth Social, he wrote that the lack of criminal charges against his adversaries was killing our reputation, and demanded, "Justice must be served now." The post followed his firing of a U.S. attorney who didn't believe there was a case against Letitia James. Trump insisted, "There is a great case," and immediately floated a loyal White House aide, Lindsey Halligan, to take on the probes. The message was a remarkable public directive. A president linking his personal grievances to the prosecutorial power of the federal government, demanding action against his political enemies. These events stirred an unsettling sense of déjà vu, echoing a dark chapter in history. In 1933, the burning of the Reichstag building in Germany was exploited by the Nazi Party. Blaming communists and external agitators, Hitler's regime rapidly moved to suspend civil liberties, suppress opposition, and solidify its authoritarian grip on power, fundamentally transforming German society. In the past couple of weeks, the long-running late-night talk show Jimmy Kimmel Live was abruptly pulled from the air. The catalyst? A seemingly innocuous joke about the administration, which was deemed disrespectful and incendiary by government officials. The swift action against a prominent comedian sent a chilling message through the entertainment industry. Fortune magazine reported on the broad implications of this move, noting the potential for a wider boycott of Disney and its subsidiaries, including Marvel and ABC, by those outraged by the threat to First Amendment rights to free speech. The FCC had threatened to pull the broadcasting license for ABC if the network refused to comply. The events of 2025 served as a stark reminder of the fragility of democratic institutions and the constant vigilance required to safeguard free speech and dissent. In a nation grappling with division and uncertainty, the question remained, at what cost does security come when liberty is compromised?
Anna Griese, a member of the governing board of the Saugus Union School District and member of the far-right group Moms for Liberty, made comments about the recent unaliving of right-wing podcaster Charlie Kirk during her last board report. Let's listen to that.
The last thing that I want to talk about, and this is a personal note, and I'm going to say these are my beliefs. They are not the board beliefs, because if I don't say that, I will get in trouble um, publicly and behind the scenes. I want to talk about the recent assassination of Charlie Kirk last week. It highlights our importance of protecting our freedom of speech and the value of open dialogue in our community. It's essential that we are creating an environment where individuals feel safe to ask questions, express differing viewpoints without fear of retaliation or litigation. Encouraging respectful discussion can help us better understand one another and strengthen our community. So I hope that we can all do better moving forward. I hope that we can have open conversations and open dialogue without feeling like we're aliens or that we don't know what we're talking about. So.
All right. So let's talk about the case of Chazz Jackson. Chazz Jackson was convicted in Orange County in 2017 on multiple felony accounts, including human trafficking, pimping, and rape. He was sentenced to 99 years to life in prison as a third striker. The case gained renewed attention in August 2024 when his new legal team filed a motion under the California Racial Justice Act. And this motion alleges that racial bias played a significant role in his trial and conviction. And the legal team's filing cites several instances of alleged racial discrimination, including a detective and a lieutenant making comments to the jury that linked Black men to criminal behavior, specifically in relation to pimping. And the trial judge allegedly stated in front of the jury that Jackson, being a quote, an African American and Black, end quote, was probably, quote, probably the defendant, end quote. The legal team argues that these statements created a racially biased environment that led to a wrongful conviction. And they also claim that this case was improperly refiled for a third time, violating California Penal Code Section 1387. And as on September 19th, 2025, which is just a few days ago from this recording, Jackson's legal team filed their final reply asking the court to either grant a writ to free him or, at a minimum, hold an evidentiary hearing to examine the alleged misconduct. So, Renee, the legal team's argument is rooted in California's new Racial Justice Act. This law allows a conviction to be challenged if racial bias is found in the case, and it doesn't even need to be the sole reason for the conviction. So can you go over some of the examples of racial bias that Jackson's team presented to the court?
Yes. For example, when the jurors heard just the phrase, you see a Black man at the table and you probably assume he's the defendant, that alone should have triggered a mistrial, but it reveals the exact kind of bias that poisoned the entire process. It's not justice. This is exactly what systematic racism looks like in real time. They heard disgusting language during the trial, and that stayed with them during the entire trial. And again, the second he said something that had racial bias, there should have been a mistrial. But again, this is systematic racism live in action.
So, Renee, I know you're passionate about this case. And for those listeners who are concerned, what can they do?
Yes, you guys can go to www.change.org/justice, the number 4, Chazz, and that's CHAZZ, and sign the petition. Try and share it as much as you can to make sure you talk about it. Tag your elected officials and let them know that we see what's happening and we will not stay silent while racism masquerades as justice.
All right, thank you. So you're listening to KQRU 107.9 FM in Santa Clarita. You can listen to Santa Clarita Weekly on Thursdays at 6 a.m. and 5:30 p.m. and on Saturday mornings at 9, and then YouTube, Instagram, or wherever you listen to podcasts. So let's talk about sports, and specifically the Dodgers. So we've got some great news for Dodgers fans. The team is in a fantastic position, and it was a great week to be a fan. I was actually at the final game of the series against the Phillies this past Wednesday, where the Dodgers avoided the sweep with a big 5-0 win. And the victory was anchored by a fantastic performance from pitcher Blake Snell, who struck out 12 batters, and another monster home run from Shohei Ohtani, which I got to witness. So this was a crucial win for the team as they continue their push for the postseason. And the winning streak continued over the weekend. The Dodgers battled their rivals, the Giants, and came out on top with a 7-5 comeback win on Saturday night. This win was huge as it lowered their magic number to just 3 to clinch the National League West. And the Dodgers are looking to ride this momentum all the way to a second straight World Series. So let's talk about the LA Rams now. The Los Angeles Rams are off to a hot start, sitting at a perfect 2-0 record, but this weekend they face their major test of the season, a road game against the Philadelphia Eagles, who are also undefeated. This is a rematch of a game from last season with a lot on the line. The Eagles have struggled with their passing game this season, but have been dominant on the ground. The key for the Rams will be to get pressure on the Eagles quarterback, Jalen Hurts, and to contain their powerful running attack, which includes their famous tush-push short yardage play. The Rams pass rush, led by the dynamic duo Byron Young and Jared Verse, will be crucial in this matchup. If they can disrupt the pocket and force turnovers, they have a real shot at beating a tough Philadelphia team. Meanwhile, the Rams offense, led by Matthew Stafford, will need to get the ball to playmakers like Puka Nacua and Devontae Adams to keep pace. This is a game that could set the tone for the rest of the season.
Hard in the walkthrough, stuff like that. I think the expectations are we're hopeful that he'll be ready to go. Same thing with Colby, and then it's a little bit less likely with Steve, but we'll leave the options open. Yeah, I think, I thought Coleman said it pretty well earlier. He didn't play it safe, man. He goes for it. He throws his hands. He's a tough competitor, plays to his strengths. I think he has a good understanding and ownership of what we're trying to get done, whether that's protection-oriented or in the run game with how we're hitting combinations, how we're blocking different front structures based on the concepts that we activate. And, he's done a good job, man. I like everything that he's about. But we'll look forward to maybe having Steve this week and, moving forward. He's doing a great job of attacking his rehab for his ankle.
As a play caller, when you have someone like Jalen Carter on the other side, how does that impact when,
Oh, you have to be aware of them, but they've got impact players all over this defense. That's what makes them great. It's as good a coach as you go against in terms of understanding how to put them in the right spots, playing to their strengths, the feel for the flow of a game. Jalen's excellent. I got a lot of respect for him, going against him twice last year. You look at the resume and the body of work that he has, but you could go through their front, their second level, their back end. They are the real deal, and we're excited about it. But he's awesome.
Talked earlier in the week about the push and the conversations you had.
Yeah.
When you've been watching film this week, have you seen any
defensively improve the run defense? What do you guys have to do to slow down Saquon Barkley?
Yeah, it's tough, because he's one of those guys, he gets a crease and he can take it, 60 yards at any point. So it's like you feel like you play good, and then next thing you know, boom, he hits it. So obviously we just got to play sound, good gap sound defense, good knockback at the line of scrimmage, gang tackle, pursuit, all the same stuff that you would play in traditional run defense. You just got to do it every single snap, because at any point you can break the game open.
Last year you guys ran a lot of stacked boxes against him and still was able to get some explosive gains. He's talked about how he kind of likes his looks because it's just one defender at the third level to beat. So is he just sort of a unique player to try to figure out how to contain his running backs now?
Yeah, he definitely is. And you're exactly right. If you try to load the box to stop the run, it was kind of what I was referring to Gary, then the next thing you know, he gets a seam and there's nobody else to tackle it. So you need, some levels, layers to the defense, vision on him, and that goes to the pursuit and the gang tackling and everybody there. Any one-on-one tackle with space and with Saquon is an extremely tough tackle, as we all know. So, I definitely agree with that point.
Conversely, Jalen Hurts, the past 5 games, hasn't thrown for 200 yards. So much attention has been allocated to stopping Saquon Barkley. How do you ensure that Jalen Hurts doesn't beat you?
Yeah, that's the dichotomy of it, right? They got great players all over. They got great receivers. They got great tight end. And you stop one guy, you put all your resources to Saquon, and Jalen Hurts can hurt you. And we've played him, recently. Obviously twice last year, the year before, and he's hurt us in the past game. And we know he's definitely capable of doing that. And so you got to divide your resources accordingly.
Josiah Stewart got his first career sack this past weekend. Just what have you seen from him through the first couple weeks?
He's a stud. we saw it going into that first game week. He had been kind of in and out with some injuries in training camp, and he was locked in, ready to go. And he was a guy, as soon as the pads came on in training camp, you felt him. He's an every down player. He can play in the run. He's tough. He's physical. He runs the ball. He's smart. He can process. For an edge guy going into his third game, he's playing at a really, really high level, and we're excited what we see.
Chris, Sean has said that Byron Young took his game to the next level. How have you seen him, improve his game, and like what specific areas has he done that?
He definitely did, Wyatt, and it's everyone sees the splash plays, obviously the 3 sacks, the sack fumble, things like that. But I think as far as his down in, down out, pre-snap demeanor, how he's hitting blocks in the run game has been the most impressive thing with him, and he's playing at an extremely high level. Like we talk about with Kobe Turner, you can't find many bad snaps, and that's how Byron Young is so far this year. You can't find many bad snaps on tape with him.
Byron's also talked about how he felt a level of responsibility with Michael's departure, the leader of that room. How have you seen him change his approach as a 30-year guy now?
Yeah, he's the veteran of the group now. He's played a lot of football. I mean, I want to say he played like 1,000 snaps his rookie year, and then played a ton of snaps last year. I don't think he's missed a game, so you're exactly right. He knows, him and Joe Knigler, our outside backers coach, came in the league kind of together at the same time. It's been fun to kind of see that relationship grow. Those guys together kind of work in unison to get better every single day. And, he really trusts Joe and takes all his coaching points, and he can go out there and apply it. So, I think that's it, just kind of doing it. He'd done it before. I think he's just doing it down in, down out more consistently.
How about Jared Verse? Not a lot of splash plays in the first 2 games, but how would you evaluate how he's played and what you were looking for out of him?
Yeah, I still think he's been an impact player for us with UC. You talk about a lot of the attention that he gets. Some of the success that Byron Young, Josiah Stewart has happened because a lot of that attention is paid to Verse, and he'll be the first to tell you he can be more consistent. He can play with better effort and be snap in, snap out, and but we think Verse is exactly where we want him to be, and expect him to continue to play well.
What did you?
And that's all we have for sports.
Tune in next week for more discussions about the news from Santa Clarita. You can listen to us on the radio at KQRU 107.9 FM at 5:30 on Thursday evenings and on 9 on Saturday mornings. You can also watch us on YouTube, TikTok, and Instagram, and listen to us on SantaClaritaStar.com or wherever you listen to podcasts. Leave us a comment and be sure to subscribe to Santa Clarita Weekly online. Thanks for listening and have a great week.
Thank you for listening to Santa Clarita Weekly. You can watch the show on Santa Clarita Star's YouTube channel and Facebook page, as well as listen in on the radio at KQRU 107.9. Visit SantaClaritaStar.com for more content and tune in right here to KQRU 107.9. A new voice for Santa Clarita.